siehst du das, Bub? Das ist Salzburg, das ist in Österreich. Und dann habe ich irgendwas gesagt wie, das ist doch Ihre Heimat, Herr Hitler. Ja, ich bin geboren in Braunau am Inn in Österreich. Und das sind auch Deutsche. Und irgendwann einmal werden die Österreicher mit uns zusammen sein im Reich.
The year is 1938. The Austrian is bringing his country back home, into the Reich.
Und will dabei auch in alle Zukunft nur ein Gebot kennen, das mich verpflichtet hat, seit ich als Junge denken wurde. Deutschland!
He left as a failure and returned as a ruler. Here he's visiting his primary school at Fischelham, a boy from the region of the River Inn, a peasant. The people here are Austrians, but lean towards Germany. He does especially. But his childhood was not unusual. 3 siblings died at an early age. All the more reason for Clara Hitler to dote on him with disastrous consequences.
Wenn was anstellte, der gibt zu, dass ein besonders Lausejunge gewesen war. Und er hat Karl May kolossal verehrt. Und auch Winnetou gefiel ihm so, dass der am Marterpfahl ganz ruhig nur sprach. Und während er sonst brüllte wie am Spieß, wenn er verprügelt wurde, wenn er mit seiner Mutter kam, erzählte er, er hätte dann, wie er Winnetou las, hat er bei der nächsten Prügeltracht, hat er nur gezählt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bei jedem Hieb. Und da hat der Vater so einen Schreck gekriegt, weil er geglaubt hat, jetzt ist der arme Bub verrückt geworden.
The poor boy is obstinate. He wants to be an artist. Never, says his father. Not so long as I live. Hitler shuts himself off, unbending and numb. Alois Hitler got his way. On this sofa, taking his early morning drink, he had a stroke. Nothing shaped Hitler's character so much as being torn between his mother and his father, between her indulgence and his hardness, between her closeness and his distance. Hitler didn't finish school. Once free of his father, he played the dandy. His stage, the back streets of Linz. A loafer who drew and raved about Wagner's operas. He dreamt of fame. His mother developed cancer. Hitler, trying to bring order into his life, went to Vienna to study at the Academy of Art. He passed the preliminary test, but in the second round his drawing was rejected as inadequate. His vanity was deeply wounded. The dream of fame had been spoilt for the time being. He drifted, loafed around. It was 1907 and Hitler was 18. The capital of the multiracial state was awash with fear of foreigners, including Jews. Hitler's anti-Semitism was at this stage vague, not fanatical. His artistic dreams represented his craving for recognition. He wouldn't tolerate contradiction, as his friend of the time found out.
Dass der Mensch eben als Mensch eine ungeheure herrische Natur hatte und er hat ihm ja, ich meine, davon hat er ja oft erzählt, dass er ihm stundenlange Vorträge gehalten hat und politische Reden geschwungen hat, während er eingeschlafen ist, noch in der Zeit, wo sie in Wien beisammen waren. Ne? Also, und hat einfach überhaupt keine andere Meinung geduldet.
That same year, Hitler was called back to Linz. His mother was on her deathbed and died of cancer shortly before Christmas. The Jewish doctor said he had never seen a son so grief-stricken. Hitler once again applied to the Academy of Art in Vienna. Once more, he was rejected. What followed was a plunge into the abyss. A few years later, he ended up here, in this hostel for the homeless in Vienna. Hitler's misery was all his own doing. He stubbornly refused to accept reality. It was not he who had failed, but the Academy that had failed to recognize his genius.
Der Führer auf dem Balkon seines Hotels.
Later, the adulation of the Viennese was especially sweet. When he'd left Vienna, he'd been fleeing homelessness, humiliation, conscription, and the hated multiracial state. In 1910, he escaped to the Reich of his dreams, to Munich. When he was in Vienna, he had scraped a living by painting copies of postcards. He tried it here, too. City views, true to life. Accurate, soulless, fossilized, just as he was, a recluse and an eccentric. War brought deliverance. The people of Munich welcomed the prospect of a world war as an escape from the confines of the age. Among them was one who finally rediscovered a purpose in life, Adolf Hitler.
Der führte direkt einen Feitstanz, hat er aufgeführt. Gell? So glücklich war er, dass er zum deutschen Militär konnte. Also das war, mein Vater gesagt hat, naja, also das ist schon allerlei. Hat er gesagt, dass der unbedingt den Krieg will und eben in Deutschland. Ne? Also das war schon besonders.
Swearing in of the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment before King Ludwig. One of these soldiers is Hitler. In Austria, he had fled conscription. But for Germany, he wanted to go to the front. At last, he belonged. The war was more murderous than any before it. His regiment was sent to the Western Front, where the assault soon petered out into trench warfare. Hitler was recognized as a brave soldier and received the Iron Cross. But in 4 years of war, he never rose above the rank of Lance Corporal. His company became a surrogate family. He was different from his comrades, a loner who refused alcohol and tobacco and avoided women in brothels. His only friend? Foxall, a British deserter. After 3 years of war, hopelessness set in. People were exhausted. All quiet on the Western Front. But on the Eastern Front, a ceasefire was in the offing. The German Reich was dictating peace terms to the Russians, an end to the war on 2 fronts. Everything staked on one card again. An attack in the West, the last great offensive. Spring 1918. Once more assurances of victory, once more an illusion, even for Lance Corporal Hitler. But he was caught by an Allied gas attack and blinded for a short time. In the Pasewalk military hospital, he learned of the German defeat. A world collapsed, and not only for him. It was a turning point in his life. Hitler had returned to his Munich regiment. his only foothold, his only home. He was threatened with demobilization and a return to the hostel. A fellow soldier later remembered that Hitler seemed like a stray dog searching for a new master. In the funeral procession for the Jewish socialist Eisner was a detachment from Hitler's regiment, wearing both red armbands and black mourning bands. The film clearly shows a lance corporal marching with the officers. Adolf Hitler.